Welcome to VolleyTalk alongside Mearson Austin. I'm Elliot Skelly. When you look at the coaches that have come through boys volleyball in Ohio, there have been a couple. Bill Ferris, Sean Tierney have run perennial state contenders for literally decades. I'd say Lee had a pretty good run a few years ago. But at the Division I level, when you talk about sustained greatness, the greatest of all time, to me, one name comes to mind. Joining us today, the former head coach of the Moeller Crusaders and four-time state champion, Greg Ulland. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Elliot. I was not exactly expecting to hear those words. I don't know that I agree with all of them, but I am honored to be here, and I truly appreciate the time and passion you guys are giving back to specifically boys volleyball, but volleyball in general here in Ohio.
Well, you may not believe it, but I wholeheartedly do. So when you look back, the very first Moeller volleyball team you played on in 1995, and Moeller's a powerhouse now, but that first season I think ended with a record of 12 and 11. What was it like to play back in those early days of boys volleyball in Ohio?
Oh, wow. I mean, so many of the athletes now actually can probably relate because we've had this wonderful like regrowth of boys volleyball in the past 3 years since we've been recognized by the OHSAA. But it was wild, Elliot. I knew next to nothing about the game. I would say I was intrigued by playing volleyball, mostly from watching the Olympics in 88, 92. And then also beach volleyball was pretty popular. It was on TV back then. And so that was my whole understanding of volleyball. I understood it to be mostly a girls' game that boys in Ohio didn't play. And then I found out that wasn't true. I was a basketball player, kind of reaching the end of my potential and opportunities at Moeller. It's hard to play a sport at Moeller as it is so many high schools here in Ohio. Just tremendous programs, and so my parents, it was important to them that I played a sport at Moeller. And so I didn't exactly have a choice. I went out for the volleyball team because it was either go back to Princeton High School or find something at Moeller that fit my skill set. And when I showed up at tryouts, there was over 100 people, and I thought to myself, "Oh my God, if I get cut from volleyball, my dad's going to kill me." And it was a real possibility. Um, our we had co-coaches our first year, and Tom Brinkman kind of helped start the program, but Janet Jager was the coach at Mount Notre Dame at the time, without a doubt one of the most influential people that I've ever had the pleasure of coming across in my life. She taught me, well, first she said, "Who wants to be a hitter?" And as you can imagine, like 90 out of the 100 hands went up, and including mine. And then she said, "Okay, who wants to be a setter?" And there were like four hands that went up, and I just, like, being kind of a math guy, I was like, I don't even know what that means, but I think I'm going to try it. And Janet taught me so much about volleyball, about how to set, and we really approached it from like a skill standpoint, like how to side out, how to win from the serving line, and so that kind of like founded my, I guess my like core beliefs on how to play volleyball the right way to win. And we didn't do that well in '95. We had some great seniors, and we had one excellent junior, but the team was really made up of like five seniors, one junior, and all the rest sophomores. It just so happened that one of our seniors, Nick Narup, hired us on to work at the beach water park. He was our boss in maintenance and pool cleaning. It was quite a crew. But what it did was allow us to play sand volleyball every day from about noon to 6.
Hmm.
And all of our sophomores worked up there. And some of the Lebanon guys who were powerhouses at the time were like, they were the guys hanging their towels up high and winning all the matches at the beach at the time. So we like cut our teeth and climbed the ropes, and we ended up getting better. And in 1997, we ended up winning the state title over St. X in our third year, in my senior year. And so that kind of like gives you the story of how Moeller volleyball started, how some of my best friendships started, and kind of where my personal and our team success stemmed from at Moeller. Just like every other good program, it came from uh, great leadership, uh, good talent, and hard work, and
Definitely.
passing and serving, as you know, Elliot.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you talked about it, but your senior year culminated in a 32-3 record, GCL championship and a state championship just the third year in Muller's program, which is incredible. You were also awarded first team All-State and state tournament MVP, which is an awesome way to finish out your senior year. Talk me through just the success that you went through that year.
Well, we were now on to a different set of co-coaches because Janet went and took the head coaching job at Wheeling Jesuit University, where she had a lot of success. They're still a powerhouse in Division II in girls volleyball. Janet's not there anymore, but so Dan Meyer, Lee's father, took over as our co-assistant coach, and Dan and Tom are research-based guys. Dan's an engineer, and Tom isn't far away, to be honest. And so they were big in '96 on side out efficiency. Like that's the thing that we cared the most about.
Sure.
We ran it pretty fast in serve receive. We ran a lot of 31s, and we ran it sometimes quick on the pins and sometimes not. And honestly, like we struggled through that a little bit in '96, but then we ended up knocking off Elder. That was John Seaton, and there's a lot of great, but John Seaton was one of the best players to ever play in Cincinnati. And I still don't know how we beat that team in the state tournament in '96. That's Sean Tierney's team. I have the utmost respect for Sean. Sean was actually my religion teacher at Moeller when I was a freshman.
Nice.
And I think that was when we like really started buying in to Dan and Tom and their idea of how we could be successful. And our senior year season, we had Todd Fitz, who was like an incredible scorer out of the middle and a very good blocker. And then we just had a bunch of guys that could pass and play. So like Joe Burke was the outside hitter on that team. He's a pretty legendary coach in Ohio. And Clint McCabe was our other outside. And we didn't have liberos yet, but we had a really good DS and Alf Cherry that played for one of our middles. Our other middle played 6 rotations a lot, or we DS for them. So we were like hitting out of the back row a lot, running really effective serve receive middles, and we served really well. So that's how I remember it. I'm sure the guys from St. X probably remember it a little differently.
Yeah.
We went, I think, 3-2 against St. X that year.
Wow.
They beat us in both league matches and won the league. And I think we beat them at what was at that time the Worthington Kilbourne tournament, the Centerville Elite tournament. So the rubber match was the state finals. And just to kind of put volleyball in perspective, Elliot, when I was a senior at Miami University playing on the club team and kind of, taking my next steps, we had 8 people living in our house, and 5 of them played on that, or sorry, 4 of them played on that St. X team, and 3 of them played on our Moeller team. So
Wow.
those state finals are some of my absolute best friends from both sides of that net. And I'm pretty sure I would be crazy not to say this. I tooled Tim Begley to win the match.
Oh, there you
So
go.
good try, Tim. You don't even know about volleyball anymore, but I'll see you next week, and I'll make sure and tell you about this podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. So after graduation, you took your talents to Mount Notre Dame and as an assistant to the girls volleyball program there, where you were part of 4 state championships at the program. What did you learn there about winning volleyball programs and teams?
Well, again, it's all pretty inbred down in Southern Ohio. But so the head coach at Mount Notre Dame was Donna Meckley at this point, and she was St. X's head coach. So
Nice.
Donna is the one who saw the coach in me and the competitor in me, and I owe pretty much all of my success as a coach to Donna, and honestly Dan Meyer and Tom Brinkman as well. But Donna let me see it through a totally different lens. You have to understand that when I was 18, and I would be the first to admit this, and I know that my good friend Dan Meyer would second it, that I thought I knew everything, and that everyone needed me to win, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. And when I got to Mount Notre Dame, it was a program that Donna was only in her second year of, but Donna had had a lot of success as a coach coaching Turpin, and she was right out of Xavier. She played softball and volleyball at Xavier and played for Floyd Deaton, who was kind of a local legend. So I trusted Donna, and I just kind of tried to put my head down and do what I was asked to do. And I learned about like being on time and being professional and being prepared, all these things that you have to learn in life. And, that turnaround at Notre Dame was something special. And I honestly think we changed girls volleyball a little bit. We girls didn't double block middles in 1998. It was pretty much one on one in the middle, and so we exploited that. I mean, if at the end of the 1998 regular season, Mount Notre Dame had a losing record. I think we were like probably 10-12, and I'll never forget this. We weren't even ranked in the top 25 in the Division I state poll, and then we went on this run where we didn't lose. I don't think we lost a set in the entire state tournament.
No way.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like everything that you're working on clicking at once. And we had a very young team. That team only had one senior. So it was kind of on after that. And in 99, we had a great year. And I bet we went 27-1 or 28-7-2. And then I'm pretty sure in the following year, in the year 2000, we were undefeated state champs. So, it's just building and learning. And some of the things that we did that I thought helped us win, like I had mentioned, we double blocked the middle and we set the heck out of. We tried to pass the ball dead center and just teach our middles how to hit sharp ones, and that attack was, especially in transition, was just very difficult to defend. We moved our left side way in, and what that did was require us to get more athletic, competent athletes at the left, and in doing so, we still had our high premium on them as receivers of serve and defenders. So we ended up getting better players that might have been former middles to play left. And we ran 6-2s and taught kids how to set and defend and served, and they always did that well. And that was kind of our first 3 years at Mount Notre Dame here.
Yeah, I mean, it was really well overall. And then you went from Mount Notre Dame to Moeller, taking that head coaching job in 2002. In your 10 years with the Crusaders, you went to the state championship game 8 times, won 4 rings, and you had big shoes to fill with Tom Brakeman and Dan Meyer, like you mentioned before, bringing the program their first 2 championships. What led you taking the Moeller job?
Well, I'm an educator, and at that time, I was starting my career as a math teacher here in Cincinnati. And I had helped Miami University's women's team while I was in college, and I, had the opportunity to get an entry level job as a college coach. But through all the factors of my life that were going on at that time, like I met my wife that year at Moeller, that first year, my current wife. I just met her back then,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of a homeboy. My family's all here in Cincinnati. And so I just decided to lean into being a high school teacher and a volleyball coach. I was able to sustain good summer employment from it. I ran my own camps and gave it just seemingly an infinite amount of volleyball lessons to really, really good players. So I enjoyed the time I was spending making money. And so Dan Meyer was critical in bringing me back to Moeller in 2002. I had just finished, I would guess, coaching his daughter Danielle at Mount Notre Dame, and she was an All-American and went on to play at Ohio State. She was a part of that undefeated season in 2000. Danielle graduated in 2003, I bet. So I was, in close conversations with Dan a lot. And when he asked me to come back, I said, as long as I have your guidance and your help and any time I can have out of you, I'll do it. And I was excited to do it. His son, Nick Meyer, was probably the best player on some of our early teams, and Dan was on the bench and was a member of my staff for all of my time from 2002 to 2011 at Moeller. It was great. I'd love to go into some of the more specifics about the teams we had at Moeller, but when I came in, Derek Bay was first team all league, and Nick Meyer was first team all state, and Nick Meyer was probably second team all state. So I certainly inherited people that knew what they were doing, and obviously Moeller is full of talented, hungry athletes. So it took a little while to kind of establish the standards and serve receive and systematically some of the standards we had. We had to build some setting, but really those guys were great. Keith Jordan, Nate Detmer, all these guys that were there when I was there. Eric Schatzel, who's coaching Mason now. They were great people, and they were ready. And they welcomed me with open arms. I'm sure they didn't like being coached by me at the time, and I'm sure I wouldn't have either, but they handled it and we got better.
Sometimes that means you're coaching them well if they don't like it. Um,
I
so
get that. I have kids, so I get that.
yeah. Your tenure is actually pretty unique because we used to have side out scoring, which is for those who don't know, you played best of 3 to 15, and you can only get a point when you're serving. So sometimes matches could go on for a long time. But you started in the side out scoring era and then saw the transition to our current scoring system. Were you a fan of the change at the time? Because it's a big change. It changed the sport a lot. And then how did your strategy change a little bit when that came into effect?
I was Elliot, I was going through that same change as a player.
Mm.
I kind of went through that, and I mean the biggest way I can explain it is there's two stories. One, I was playing in a tournament at Ohio State when I was in college, and we finished at like 1:15 in the morning because these matches just took so long when they got to be at a high level. And two, I remember in 1998 going back to watch Moeller play St. X on a Sunday, and both teams ran out of sub in the first set, and it was 0-0. Oh shoot, my lights are automatic. Give me a second here. And so it, it the change was overdue. With that change came let serving, which is that's an important one to notate. And then the year after came the libero. So we went from serving balls that had to go over the net and having to basically earn a point with a block or a transition dig or a hitting error to basically valuing the serve receive as the most important part. So like a lot of what my coaches had already instilled with us at Moeller when I was in high school really translated. I top spinned. I hit jump serves in 96 and 97. So serving aggressive was kind of part of my DNA. And I think the switch just kind of, especially in boys volleyball, made it so that if your team was going to win a championship, they were going to have to win 5 matches in a row, which meant they were going to have to serve aggressive and hit that 85 to 90% clip. Otherwise, they were going to get beaten one of those matches if the errors came, in the wrong sets. So I think applies to serving and passing first. You have to be able to side out and you have to be able to make runs. Serve receive allows you to side out, and serving aggressive and consistently allows you to make runs. Aces are overrated. You need some sort of a serving efficiency ranking so you have an idea of both how many points are you winning off of your serve and how successful are you at getting the other team out of system. Those are the things that I kind of paid the most attention to.
Definitely agree with that. So of the 20 teams to make it to the state championship in your 10-year run, only four were not either Elder, Sanex, or Moeller. So it was a pretty dominant streak from the GCL back then, plenty of epic battles, but probably your most successful year was 2007. You went 29-0, won the GCL, won the St. Charles Kickoff Classic, the Centerville Elite Eight Tournament, the Buckeye Classic, and you were led by State Player of the Year, Lee Meyer, in his senior year. I mean, describe that year for me.
Well, I mean, I could go on and on about that team. The best part of this story is the end, so I guess I'll save it for the end. But so we have Lee and Danny. They're essentially co-players of the year. Danny started on the outside as a sophomore, and then willingly and graciously moved into the middle as a junior. So he played middle. I would have, but Danny played 6 rotations, a fair amount, but he had to play middle for sure. That team was super blessed with athletes. I'm pretty sure that team beat Moeller's basketball team in a dunk contest, which is one of my proudest moments at a pep rally. But like James Emming was my other middle. He went on to play at Ball State. Danny played at Ohio State. Lee was a huge 6 rotation. Like he's the biggest O2 you'll ever see. He passes it. He controls it. He can set. He always wanted to set it. You had this like little gritty leader in Doug Cherry running the show for these guys. Brian Shings was just an excellent right side, one of probably the most unsung players in Moeller history. And then you just had like a crew of Steve Case and Danny Frank and Brendan Lacey, just like a crew of hardworking, selfless. I just want to be part of the team, guys. And then you had Judd Hopkins, who was another middle who was just like made everybody play better and do their best. Now that I think about it, I definitely moved Danny out to the outside because James and Judd played middle. So Lee and Danny were our lefts. Um, Mike Chandler could have set or played libero and was probably one of the best athletes I ever coached at Moeller, but he kind of rounded out the starting lineup as our libero. Thinking about this group of kids is like one of the best opportunities of being on this show. All of them. Same thing with my last group. I didn't prepare for this at all. I haven't thought of these guys in a long time, but they've made such a huge impact on me and on Moeller. And so now I'll get to the best part of the story, which is Elder
Yeah.
and that team they had coming back with the Wessel twins. And I won't get into all those guys because I'll end up getting them probably confused with other years. But I can just tell you that we almost had no business winning that state finals.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
and that state finals was at Cincinnati State. So I was maybe the president of the Ohio Boys Volleyball Coaching Association at this time. And we used to do like Columbus one year and then Cincinnati one year, Columbus one year, Cleveland one year, Columbus one year. And then we usually go to Dayton because there wasn't even teams in Toledo at the time. So it was like alternating between kind of those cities. So it just happened to be the year where we held it at Cincinnati State. The venue was perfect. It was way beyond sold out. Like I do remember the fire marshal like holding up the game because it was oversold. And I think we won 15-13 in the fifth, if I had to remember right.
Wow.
But basically, Elder started realizing that they could pass the ball to Craig Wessels and create a situation where we either had to double block them on our second ball or we had to leave them be. And Craig had played against us for so long. He's a junior at this point, had started since his sophomore year, that he just Craig's one of the best setters to ever play in Ohio, without a doubt. And he had us figured out, and he was an absolute nightmare handful. They could also, I remember Rob Malone could just block the hell out of Lee and Danny. So like these guys were afraid of nothing, and that's like a quality you get out of this league we're in. Total respect, but a lack of fear. Like it takes
Sure.
that to compete in our league, and they took us to the absolute wire and we ended up winning, and it was one of the better nights of my life. And then that propelled that group of people to an undefeated state championship the following year, which I got to be a part of from the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much history overall, and with such a successful career at Moeller, what are some other moments that deserve to be highlighted?
Okay, let's see Steve Kehoe deserves to be celebrated. um, as a somebody who admires setters and leaders. Steve Kehoe at St. X was, I think, probably the best competitor I ever played against. Um, let's see. I think, you know, boys volleyball's growth and its willingness to be humble and exist within itself, but kind of stick to it and believe in its product. I think that's one of the cooler stories going. The thing I think that people don't realize about volleyball is it's going to be the first sport where the boys are going to ride the the success of the girls. That's really
Yeah.
never happened in sports. In fact, you've seen that in tennis, especially in American tennis. But like the girls' sport is more popular now.
Hmm.
There's American stars, but you can make an argument that it's more enjoyable to watch. Um, Boys volleyball has kind of just succeeded because they know that it's a beautiful game and that they're helping boys find their way in sports and in life. But there's this market that is so untapped, and I'd like to think that we're on the precipice of. You see all the success that the women are having on TV.
Hmm.
Some of the more highly televised non-football games of the entire fall are women's volleyball now. Um, and the success they've had at the NCAA level at the championships with sold out crowds and ABC, they're
Yeah.
on ABC now. So I just think a good story that hasn't been told all the way yet is how the boys, didn't take it personally and did their best and took care of themselves, along with the help of a lot of the leaders for women's volleyball, and just kind of kept chugging along. And I think that wave is yet to come. So I think that's a story that deserves to be celebrated. All these kids, playing club volleyball,
Hmm.
the product that was out on the court in Columbus last weekend with those four teams. I know,
It's
sadly,
incredible.
none of them were from our side of the Mississippi, but that's not how it usually is at the NCAA championships. And honestly, the product on the court, the setting, the middle play, it was fun volleyball.
Yeah.
For the most part, the serving was acceptable and elite at times, and so I think that needs to be celebrated. And then all of these people that I probably won't name that were given the opportunity to do something that was completely legit. I mean, training, uh, weight training, film, scouting, practices, putting up with feedback and that you may not want to get, and the setbacks that come with being on a team and not like maybe reaching the role that you wanted. That's what we're here to do. That's why I'm still doing it. Coaching, that is, and teaching. All these young people need help, and opportunity is one of the greatest ways you could ever help somebody. And all of the people who put money aside and gave boys the opportunity to play volleyball, they deserve to be celebrated. So those are three things that are important to me. I hope that kind of answers your question a little bit, Mahir.
No, it definitely does. And I think there's a lot of growth, a lot of opportunities that have been coming most recently to the sport of boys volleyball. Now, eventually you retired from the Moeller program and now you're back at Mount Notre Dame. You're repping them today. You're the head coach of the girls program there. In your experience, what separates those championship teams from the rest?
Um, like the team, what separates teams that win championships from teams that don't? Is that kind of the line of your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. One is you have to be able to serve and pass. I won't beat that dead horse again, but like I can't state it enough. And with that just comes the overall ability to control the ball. You have to be able to get swings in difficult situations, and you have to manage swings in difficult situations. So you see all of the recycle balls that these high end teams do a lot, and the balls that you're hitting off the top of hands. These donut shots that spin over the block and in front of the defense that are not probably utilized enough in today's game. Um, so I think the number one difference is the ability to control the ball. All of the teams that play at a championship level do that really well. And honestly, if they don't, they usually are exited pretty quickly from those Final Four or Elite Eight matches. Because, the teams that just want to pound it and just want to block it, there's too many points in a match, and you don't get that opportunity to do that in a perfect setting very often. If there's 175 or 190 points in a match, the in system play represents maybe 15 to 20%.
Sure.
And everything else is just managing the ball so that you might be able to get it back and get it in system or get it in better system. And then if you control the ball, you double that. All of a sudden, an easy outside attack just went from a dig to something that feels like a free ball pass. Because if that ball is spinning cross court and you're stopped, if you can control the ball, you can put that ball to the center of the net and give your team three or four options. And when you have three or four options, you don't need any one of them to be that overpowering. You just need to do it over and over. So I think the best championship teams, and this is really like my philosophy of setting in general, is they attack you by controlling the ball all the time. And the offense seems diverse or complicated, but it really isn't. It's just a setter in charge of making decisions. And the more opportunities or options that setter has, the more successful those balanced teams will be.
For sure. Now, I've heard that the bond between the coaches of Moeller is pretty special. How have you stayed connected with this program or contributed to the successful runs after retiring as head coach there?
Well, not as well as I would like, but these are people that I absolutely love. So I'm I got out of coaching at Moeller mostly because I had a family. My kids, I used to walk my son into practice in a pumpkin seat and sit him on the bleachers, and he kind of grew up with that sound of Moltons just popping all around him. Um, God bless Lori Weisenberger, who used to feed him and change him during practice. That's just a parent who did that so I could coach. And like soon thereafter, I had another kid, and you start to recognize. And my wife is very successful and has an awesome job with Children's Hospital here in Cincinnati. So it wasn't about what I wanted to do; it was about what was best for my family. And so I had to walk away. I wanted to walk away earlier, but Marshall Lunning and the group of T Wolves, as we called each other from 2011, just convinced me to go out with them. And what a awesome way to go out that was. I know we lost to St. Ed 17-15, but that team was absolutely nasty. And Owen deserved it, along with Carter. And so we all went out together, and I was proud of what I did. And first, it was easy to turn it over to Matt McLaughlin, who won his state championship in 2012. His best player was our sophomore middle blocker, the next year junior Casey Pieper, who's currently coaching at Moeller. And so, and after Matt, in between Matt and Casey was obviously Lee and his fantastic little tenure. So all three of those people mean the world to me. I like to think I'm always there. Casey just hit me up a couple days ago for some advice on some state tournament stuff. And I'm always there for them, but at the same time, doing something partially is not really something that I do well, and so it's hard for me to put my toe in the gym and lurk and medal because I know how great Casey is. Like I had that kid when he was 13; he's incredible, and Lee knows more volleyball and has played more volleyball than I'll ever play. So part of it is just trusting the people that you love and that you do trust to do a great job and to give them grace so that they can learn their way as adults and as coaches and as leaders, and then providing them any support you can. That's about what I do. But I do love those guys and I believe in them so much. Casey's got a little battle for himself this week, but
Yes, he
I know they're
does.
going to be ready. I know they're going to be ready.
We're filming this a little bit early, so we got regional semifinals up for tomorrow if you're watching this in the future.
Yep.
So obviously, whether you admit it or not, I still think at least one of the greatest coaches come through Ohio. What's some advice that you would give, any coach that's wanting to emulate some of what you did at Moeller?
Oh wow. Let's see. First of all, like Bill Ferris, Sean Tierney, Matt McLaughlin, Joe Burke. Um, um, I'm forgetting St. Ed's coach's name, but these are my heroes and people that I looked up to in boys volleyball coaching. My first advice is to spend the first 20 or 30 minutes of every single practice until the postseason, so preseason and regular season, doing the exact same thing. So that thing has changed for me and it will continue to change. But year to year, I have a systematic approach to getting warmed up, learning how to control the ball in all five aspects of the game, and then learning how to attack the ball out of system. That's pretty much my split, like what I'm doing right now. But at Moeller, it was not that different. We had different facilities. So we had, different things that we could do with that huge gym and all the bricks. But the thing that does for me, Elliot, is it gives me the first 30 minutes of practice where I can connect with my players as humans and as people. I can ask them how they're doing. I can ask them what they want to get better at. I can listen to them. I can try to offer them advice. And, this is as true for the three-time all-state player as it is for the kid who might only get into serve against a certain team,
Sure.
not a typical player in our lineup. So keeping connected with everyone while they habitually learn how to control the ball and work with detail is a big strength of what I do. I just know that. And it's part of what the boys hate, but they don't hate winning. So like it's worth it.
Right.
And then from there, putting as much emphasis on developing setting. I think there's a lot of ROI there. It's the only person on your team where they get to touch it every time you want them to, and they get to decide who touches it on the third one. So they kind of control about 70 to 80% of the touches in the game. So like just starting with the math there, if you can pass the ball high and get a good athlete to locate some sets, then the final piece of the puzzle is just minimally being able to attack high balls. And then from there, you can build a transition system and a middle attacking and blocking system that works for your personnel. Sometimes I went fast, sometimes I didn't at all. Sometimes we were pretty complicated when we were small, and sometimes we didn't even run free balls because you weren't going to stop us if we were 1-9 go. So I think there's too much. I mean, you watch a guy. Here we go again. Sorry, I got to do this again.
No problem.
You watch a guy like Moni set, and I mean, it's like art and all at once. The setter from Long Beach, I'm
Yep.
sure you guys know who this guy is,
Oh
obviously.
yeah.
And so it's easy to like want to design your whole team around like finding that player and finding the unicorn. It's not worth it. And honestly, in high school, they're not going to become that. Not in Ohio.
Right.
I mean, you're going to have to teach kids how to play and how to win, and hope that they've got such a great foundation that they might, by the time they're a junior or senior, just do some in absolutely incredible things. Like, we've got some players in Ohio this year that are just badasses.
Yes, we do.
But for the most part, you're trying to just get a team that's going to be dependably able to control the ball and take big swings from all sorts of places. So, like, just avoiding those unicorns and just focusing on controlling the ball in the boys' game. There's so much return to that. And then, like, with that comes like a series of fun, competitive drills, which I think boys just really, if you can give a set of competitive, especially boys, because they're not, I don't say it because of the gender differences, because I could go on and on about, like, I've coached in general, the girls that I've coached are physically tougher and usually a little bit more able to sustain some of the mental challenges of the season than boys. Whereas, so like, I guess I don't want to overgeneralize boys and girls, but here's what's definitely true. Girls have essentially been taught their whole lives, and boys are in the middle of teaching themselves how to play. And there's a big difference there. So part of coaching boys volleyball is just creating drills where they're simple, they're super competitive, and they're fair. And just play it at length, play it over the course of weeks, and watch what happens. The game will teach the boys the technique, and the tactic will come from the game as well. And now you don't have to spend as much time. You can say pass the ball high to the middle of the net instead of saying hold your platform still, face the passer, angle to target. It's just a different set of feedback because you're trying to advance them in a different place in their life. But it's nice because you tap into them when they're older, usually, and they have a little bit more willingness to take control of their own game.
Well, Coach, really appreciate you coming on. What I like about the Moeller timeline is there's a great coach that coaches great players, and those great coaches come back and coach more great players, and the success just keeps rolling. 11 state championships. I think second place is like 6. Nobody's even close. So pretty incredible run, and it was really great to get a look back at the history of it. So thanks for coming on.
Well, hey, my pleasure to meet you guys. I was planning on saying that I want to say I think JJ Beckelheimer is the best setter in Moeller history.
Okay.
And I don't think Moeller would have had a chance to win without him 3 years ago. I mean, the performance he had, he is a freak. And I don't ever say that. JJ is awesome. I don't even know him. I just saw him from afar and shook his hand a couple times. So I want to make sure I say that. I want to thank all of the people from Cincinnati that have supported boys volleyball, but more importantly from the state of Ohio. And I want to wish everyone good luck this week. I know this might be coming out after regionals, but best of luck in the regionals, and continue to make everyone proud next week at the state championship. It's so good to be on here with you guys. Thanks.
All right, that was Greg Ulland. Now we get with us Division II Player of the Year last year from St. Charles, Mladen Tague. Mladen, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good. So you're at Ole Miss, right?
Yes.
You doing club volleyball there?
Surprisingly, no, I am not playing club volleyball this year.
Why not?
Um, I didn't really like it as much as I liked high school ball.
Okay,
I've just been kind of playing. Now I'm back home. I've been playing with some guys back here. I want to play sand volleyball a little bit this summer, and that's about it.
that's cool. Now you were actually, this is funny. You were second team all conference and state player of the year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that was funny because it's like it's not just like you're not the best person in the conference, but there's also like five guys better than you. That's what some conference coaches say. But you're also state player of the year. So it doesn't track. But anyway, so let's get into this weekend. Friday, Saturday, we got the state tournament. We'll start with Division II. Mount Vernon took down your St. Charles squad and made it to the state tournament, and they'll be playing Nordonia. Are you connected with the St. Charles team at all this year?
Yeah, I knew a lot of the seniors on the team, and I also knew a good number of the juniors as well.
Okay. Now I'm here, Mount Vernon, Nordonia. What are you thinking for this one?
I think it's such an interesting battle because you have a Mount Vernon side that made the drop down to Division Two, and we saw that a lot across the entire state. And a lot of these teams, were in the finals. We saw Loveland, we saw Firestone, Mount Vernon. Yeah, again, the Yellow Jackets, the only team to, knock off the St. Charles Cardinals, Mladen Teg's alma mater. But again, interesting battle. But I think Mount Vernon's just overpowered. We've seen that in those, Region 5, Region 7 battles or Region 8 against Region 7 battle as it was last year. Give me Mount Vernon to advance.
How many sets?
I gotta say, it's going to be close because in those types of battles, you think it's going to be a sweep, but you never know it's going to happen. But I'm going to go with my gut here and say 3 sets.
Mladen, what are you thinking?
And I was able to go to the game against St. Charles, and they looked really hot. I think credit to Nardonia for getting there, but I think Mount Vernon's going to overpower them. I want to say I think they can take it to four. I want to say Mount Vernon four, but I would not be surprised if they do end up sweeping them. I mean, their outsides were playing out of their minds the game I watched, so it'd be interesting to watch though.
They are a great team. Historically, Region 7's kind of like the easier match for whoever gets there, but I feel good about Nordonia. I think they're probably one of the best teams to come out of it so far. I think they're better than both the independent squads we saw. I will say, though, I think Mount Vernon looks pretty good, so I'm going to take Mount Vernon in three. The other D2 match, we've got the juggernaut McNick against St. Vincent St. Mary, who's been back for like the fourth year in the row, which is super impressive. Mahir, what are you thinking about that one?
Yeah, it's a rematch of what we saw in the semifinal a couple years ago. It was STVM against McNick. That McNick side, again, got in as a fifth seed. Were very young. And a lot of those guys are now in their third consecutive season going to the Final Four. So that shows, how much this team has just brought back piece after piece. I mean, they only graduated one senior, which was Bryce Dillard last year. So this is a team that is destined to go forward, in my opinion. STVM, credit to them on a great season again. That I mean, they are the team in Region 6. They continue to be the team in Region 6, but I think McNick gets it done with the sweep.
Mladen, this is pretty much the same team you saw in that state championship match, and they took you guys to five sets, eventually won, only lost one guy. They're coming back. I mean, it's tough not to pick them, but what do you think about this match?
Um, they're the clear favorite. I think.
Yeah.
I I think St. Vincent St. Mary, they didn't lose, too many of their starters, but I think just that whole pretty much their McNick's whole core is still there. Gonna be hard to take a set from them, I think. I think McNick in three.
I would agree with you there. I think honestly, McNick in three is going to be the story of this playoffs. I don't see anyone competing with him, but you never know. It is the playoffs. Over in Division 1, we'll start with Thomas Warrington, New Albany. Here, what do you think about that one?
Credit to New Albany. I mean, this is a team that came out of nowhere. We were talking about Berlin or Pick North was going to advance out of that Region 1, especially with Liberty really rebuilding its core after that run to the state semifinals last year. Again, credit to New Albany. This is a team that's, again, similar to McNick, is going to be returning a lot of people next year. That being said, Thomas Worthington, this is their year. If you have a healthy Finn Ruben, you have a healthy JT McGuire, Cardinals get it done. And again, it might be close. It might go to four, but I'm going to say three.
Yeah, it's actually funny. The sixth seed in the state tournament. We've seen that in 2022 with Jerome. They were a sixth seed, but that was also back when the state tournament was eight teams. So they were the one seed and the sixth seed from that region went. But yeah, so now we got a six seed just straight up was the best in their region. So that's pretty cool. Aladdin, who do you got?
Um, I think Thomas Worthington. I know a couple of the guys on that team. They've been building that core together, like those starters now. They've been playing together for years. On club, I play with them during the summer. Those guys, they got a good year. I think they win in three. Credit to Albany for pulling off a lot of upsets, but just I don't think they can get it done.
I would agree with you there. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get to see that Pick North team at the state tournament, but New Albany doing a great job. We'll see if they can pull another upset. And then the big one, I think the most competitive match of the weekend is going to be St. Ignatius versus St. Xavier. I'm here. What are you thinking on that?
Ever since OHSA took over boys volleyball, we have yet to see a semifinal go to five sets. It's been very three set, three set, a couple of four sets. Again, we've seen those five set matches in the final, but not at the semifinal. I think this one goes the distance. I think this is a St. Ignatius side that is much stronger compared to what we saw in the final last year against the St. Xavier Bombers, who, in my opinion, are kind of at the same skill level they were last year. And again, they have the ability, they have the players to repeat as state champs. This is a very close game, though, in my opinion. I think St. Ignatius is going to take it the distance. I don't think they get it done, though. Give me the Bombers in five.
All right, Aladdin.
Yeah, I played against St. Xavier last year, and they're really good. They're all well coached. Those guys, they know what they're doing. St. Iggy, though, they've been, this is 2 years in a row now. They've been, winning that division pretty easily, I think.
Mm.
They got a really good outside in Jack Reagan. I think they can make it very close. I think definitely at least four sets. Wouldn't be surprised if they go to five, but I think St. X is just too well rounded to not win that game. I'll take St. X in five.
It's funny you bring up last year because I remember watching you guys that game. You were one of the only teams to take a set off them that year. But I've been telling people all year because on paper, it looks like this San X team is even better than last year's. It's not true. Last year's team was a different team. Those guys that were like, you go play them in the playoffs, you're like, all right, hey, whatever happens tonight, good season, guys, because you know you're going to lose. This team, it's just not quite that easy. Elder came out and beat them 25-14 in the first set of the regional final. And then it was a battle. I mean, a few points go Elder's way. Elder comes out of that region. This is going to be a really, really close match. I agree with you here. I think it's going five. I think St. Ignatius pulls the upset and gets it done in five sets to go to the final. So that'll be all our state tournament matches. Well, Adam, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate
Of
you.
course,
Yeah, it sucks you're not playing club ball. We'll miss. I'd say you should come to Tuscaloosa for a tournament, but that's too bad. But
we'll see. I got a couple years left. Maybe I come out and play next year.
yeah,
Don't know yet.
you start building the program, man. I mean, all it takes is a few good guys to turn it around, and you never know. But with that, this has
Sure.
been Ohio VolleyTalk, and we'll catch you after the state semifinals for the bonus episode.